We talked about Wendy's dynamic duos. We got a dynamic duo back together in college football. Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer. Ryan Grubb, for those who don't know, was Kalen DeBoer's longtime OC. They worked together at multiple stops. He was going to come to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer from Washington, but then the Seahawks hired Ryan Grubb as their offensive coordinator. It did not go the way everybody wanted it to. The Seahawks fired him last month. Now Ryan Grubb is headed to Tuscaloosa to work with Kalen DeBoer again. This tandem has been really good in the past, Ari. Do you think this changes what our expectations should be for Alabama's offense?
Let me answer your question with a question. Was Washington's offense 2 years ago like some of the most fun offense you've watched like in college football, period? Because
1,000,000%. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you're an Alabama fan, if you recall like watching Pac-12 After Dark 2 years ago, but it was sensational. And I don't know how much of that was having a quarterback with a laser beam attached to his shoulder, or if that was having Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk on the team. They were so creative, so innovative, so aggressive, so entertaining. Like, how could you not be pumped about this?
Yeah, exactly. And they've got one quarterback in Austin Mack who Ryan Grubb helped recruit to Washington. So we know he likes him. We'll see what happens with Ty Simpson, how they work together, because it looked like Ty Simpson was the guy who was ready to ascend the starting job. You also have Keelan Russell coming in, the recruit from Texas. So Kalen DeBoer tried it this way with Nick Sheridan as the play caller. That did not work the way they wanted it to. You know, the Alabama fans, if you read the message boards, they very much blame Jalen Milroe for how bad the offense was. I said, oh, it can't possibly be him, because if he was so bad, why wouldn't they just start somebody else? I was at the Senior Bowl practices last week, Ari, and I don't think I've ever felt this way about a person, where they probably would have been better off not coming to the Senior Bowl, but I think Jalen Milroe would have been better off not coming to the Senior Bowl.
Really?
Like, maybe it was. Maybe those message board people were right. It's like the tweet, I got to hand it to the haters. The haters really nailed this one.
Right. The haters said I couldn't do it, but yeah, the haters, they were right. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Now, I still have the same question, though. If it was that bad, why didn't you go to somebody else? Because that leads me to believe that the somebody else's weren't better. But it was tough to watch during those Senior Bowl practices last week.
Yeah, well, the thing that is I'm having the hardest time with, and I actually have to like consider this as we end this show here in a few minutes, and I go to do my bracket for next year, of like, who is the quarterback that makes you excited that Alabama has? Like, that's the thing. It's like, is Ty Simpson going to come out and be a first round draft pick? Like, we've seen him a little bit. What we've seen of him isn't jaw dropping. A player can get better. A player can develop. But like, do you feel especially confident in Alabama's quarterback situation going into next year? And like, are you surprised that they weren't more aggressive in trying to bring somebody in?
It leads me to believe they like Keelan Russell a lot.
That's the wild card here, right? Like, are you going to a true freshman? And it can work. It can work.
Has worked at Alabama before. Jalen Hurts took them to the national title game as a true freshman and was not the greatest passer in the world, but managed to make it work. So I do think it and that's the thing. We've talked about this with multiple teams, and I think it's a very interesting point, because I don't know if it's right or not. When a team does not aggressively go after some position group in the portal, it leads me to believe that the coaches think they're good there, that they like what they've got there. Two favorites for just $7. It's got to be Wendy's. I know what you're thinking. What, Andy? What? You're not talking about the saucy nugs? Oh, the saucy nugs are still here. But you remember the super value menu and the biggie bag? I do. I got a lot off the super value menu back in the day. I got a lot of biggie bags. This is the next generation dynamic duos. Two favorites for $7. Pick any two of these in any combination you want. spicy chicken sandwich, Dave's single, classic chicken sandwich, and of course, a 10-piece nugs. That's 60 different combinations, all delicious. You can make a hot poultry power couple with a spicy chicken sandwich and some spicy buffalo nugs. You go double beef with 2 quarter-pound Dave singles. Create your own ultimate duo today in the Wendy's app. And later in the show, Ari and I are going to talk about an ultimate duo that is getting back together in the world of college football. That's right, a little foreshadowing. So, open the Wendy's app. Choose spicy chicken sandwich, Dave's single, classic chicken sandwich, 10-piece nugs, 2 of each. 2 of each would be delicious. Any 2 for $7. It's got to be Wendy's. Terms apply.
Do you know what I think about with the Grubb hire? The Apple Cup from 2 years ago. Do you remember the ending of that game?
Yep.
The Apple Cup was tied with 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining, and Washington faced a 4th down and 1 from its own 29. So, like, they set the punt team out, but then they called the timeout because they were never going to punt. Then they called this like triple option concept where there was a dive, a quarterback keep option, or they could pitch the ball to Rome Odunze, who was in motion coming behind the line. And they pitched it to Odunze, and he ran up the sideline for like 40 yards. And it was the perfect, like even the cameraman was fooled. And first of all,
I watched that play in the PF Chang's bar in Ann Arbor because I had covered Michigan, Ohio State earlier that day. So that was on the TV. On my iPad it all comes back to Alabama and Jalen Milroe, was Jalen Milroe throwing to Isaiah Bond on 4th and goal from the 31 in the Iron Bowl.
Like, you also have to put yourself in a position of where Washington was when they called that play. They weren't just because if you don't get it, you lose.
Right.
But Washington was also undefeated at that moment.
Yep.
And like they gambled their entire season on that call. And not only did they just go for it, they had the perfect play dialed up. It fooled the cameraman. Odunze ran up the sideline. They ultimately won and went to the playoff and eventually played for the national championship. That shit is awesome. I cannot imagine the pressure that Grubb and DeBoer had to be feeling in the 5 seconds before the ball was snapped on that play. I can't imagine how big of a man, a dude's dude you'd have to be to even call that. And not just go for it in the moment, but to have been prepared from a scouting standpoint, a play calling design standpoint to know you were going to get it. Like that to me is what being an offensive coordinator or an offensive coach is all about. And that duo is back together with a team that has a bunch of really good players. That's a really exciting, a really exciting notion to me.
So they've worked together at Sioux Falls, at Fresno State, at Washington. Like these guys know each other really well. So, and that's what you wonder was Ryan Grubb the missing piece for Kalen DeBoer last year? Because listen, Kalen DeBoer didn't suddenly become a terrible coach. He was the same guy who had done all that at Washington, who had made Fresno State very good. He had really good players. So what was the difference? The difference was he didn't have Ryan Grubb. So maybe this changes it.
Maybe it changes it.
Maybe.
And you know what else changes it? It's like Keelan Russell comes in and is a fucking badass. Like that changes it too a little bit. Also
could possibly change. Or it's Austin Mack. Or Austin Mack is the guy that Ryan Grubb helped recruit to Washington.
It would be great if like a Washington recruit who transferred in became the next great Bama player. I mean, when you think about it, there have been a ton of quarterback transfers from Northern football to Southern football that have been awesome. So, you never know.
Sound like Doug Maurice there.
I think I kind of did, and I realized it after. But like also too,
I don't think Austin Mack is from the North though.
No, but going to a Northern roster to take a player. But like also it's like Cam Ward, that type of thing. Like
exactly.
And now Oklahoma is doing it with Wazoo. Like it's like it
with John Matsier.
Yep.
Yeah, Austin Mack from Folsom, California, originally. So
that's the king of the North right there.
Is it? Where's California. Our line?
I don't know.
This is Northern California.
It's Northern California, so
Well, Doug told me that the South gets Berkeley and Palo Alto.
Oh,
the last time I talked
Folsom's up there, right?
Folsom is up. All right, now I'm hitting the maps on this because I need to know exactly what line of latitude Folsom falls on. All right, it is north of Sacramento.
Okay,
it's very close to the line here.
Very close. A northern player. Yeah, when I think of the South, I think of Palo Alto, Doug. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's pretty much right on the line. So